Greetings. I'd like to talk a little bit about paradigms and theories. Around 55 years ago, Thomas Kuhn published a book called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, and the book focused on scientific changes in physics. And when I was in graduate school as a sociology major, I remember everyone was reading this book, and I wondered why. And so I read it. I still don't know much about physics, but what it really helped me to understand is how we think about science and how science changes and how our theories are developed and how our theories change. So this really got me into the area of looking at kind of a scientific study of theories, if you will. So we might ask, how do paradigms operate? Or let's say the theories, the research methods, the ways we carry out our research, the ways we develop policies, and the ways we basically think about crime and criminal justice. But according to Thomas Kuhn, that scientific paradigms move through several stages. First, there is a dominant paradigm, really the one that a majority of the scientists in that field use. And there's often a belief by many that that one is the best paradigm. It explains the most of our area of interest. And then when we use this paradigm, we follow this normal science pattern, which is kind of business as usual. A lot of the scientists are expanding the theory or the paradigm, testing out hypotheses to support it, replicating research, and everything's fine until some anomalies occur. Then all of a sudden, scientists start saying, "Uh-oh, what's up with that? What's going on? How do we explain that?" In essence, there happens to be some areas that are not explained by the theory or the paradigm. And this can lead to a scientific crisis. And if we have too much unexplained and we run into problems, this crisis can turn into a revolution, especially if there's other paradigms that are developing and becoming more popular. And the revolution occurs, and a second paradigm, a different paradigm, takes over as the dominant paradigm. And of course, you can still have scientists operating from the first paradigm, but the second paradigm becomes more popular and kind of the accepted ones. What we clearly see in criminal justice are multiple paradigms operating, with several dominant paradigms and then some paradigms that are kind of on the periphery, if you will. And so this really helped me to kind of understand how to think about theories and the different perspectives and how our supportive theories have changed over the years. And you see that really in the chapters that you're reading now, especially in talking about the areas of the classical, positivistic, and conflict critical school of criminological thought. And that's why I really put up the that theory survey. And just to kind of go over it again, I think really what that represents are three major paradigms, and a lot of the criminal justice theories come out of those paradigms. And then we have different theories that branch off here and there, and some overlap, and some have quite a lot of differences. So first, looking at the classical school of criminological thought, some of the ideas behind that paradigm are that humans are rational beings who choose to commit crime or obey the law, and that we should focus on criminal activities rather than on criminals, and that people who commit crimes should always be punished, and deterrence is the best way to prevent crime. So that's kind of the classical school, if you will. And what you'll see that really underlines a lot of these ideas and perspectives is the debate over free will. And the extent or the amount, if you will, of free will that individuals have. And then secondly, if we looked at the positivistic school of criminological thought, some of the general assumptions there are that human behavior is determined by internal and external factors, both psychological and environmental, and we should focus on criminals rather than on the criminal acts. And people who commit crimes should be rehabilitated, and using the scientific method is the best way to prevent crime. So you can see that there's some stark differences in those two paradigms. And then finally, the conflict critical school has the following general assumptions. Social institutions tend to be oppressive. We should focus on laws rather than on criminal acts or criminals. And inequality is the major cause of crime, and the best way to prevent crime is to change the social class system to one based on equality. So there you have a very different approach than the classical or positivistic paradigms. And these three paradigms you'll see throughout our textbook, that all of the theories tend to fall into one of those major paradigms. Also, we'll have the opportunity to look at some theories that are not mentioned in your textbook that a, a smaller number of theorists are using, but that may have much more potential in the future if they become more prominent in the scientific field. So today I just wanted to do a brief overview of paradigms and paradigm change, thinking really about theories and theoretical change, and some of the basic underlying theories of criminal justice that we will be covering. And you can see that those really focus on how one views, let's say, how one views social control, how one views free will, and also how one views criminal acts versus the criminal as the major focus, and what policies should be implemented. And this wraps up this video. Thank you.